This is High Adventure 2012. I get a lot of questions, what do I do for High Adventures? How does that work? And so I thought I'd make a little movie of one that we did in 2012 that was successful. Granted, it is 2013 at the time I made this video, so I'll just have to put 2013 in here as well. This is base camp for us in the Uintas. This is Utah, and we are camping right here at it's called Joan Lake. It's in the Murdoch Basin area. What you see right here is this is all the young men cooking on their tuna can stoves. I think I've shown this in one of my previous videos. Everybody backpacked in to this area from Echo Lake. It was probably about an hour and a half backpack in. What I did is I am the one who packed in all the Coghlan's fuel tablets for this, and then I had them all cook their own food when we got there. There was plenty of water around because we were next to a lake, and so, hey, there I am hammocking. Yeah, I hammock. For a night hike, we hiked up even higher into Blizzard Lake just to look over the views that night. For the record, this started on Tuesday, so this was not your typical 5-day high adventure. We pretty much got everything ready Monday and left Tuesday morning and got into Echo Lake. And so this is more of a 4-day high adventure. That area in Utah and the Uintas lends itself to things like this. So there I am. That is Blizzard Lake, I believe. We kind of walked up around Joan and Blizzard Lake and Gem Lake. Lots and lots of lakes. And for that matter, that also meant that there were lots and lots of mosquitoes. So you have to be careful where you camp if you're going to camp around a lot of lakes. I suggest you don't camp near water, especially still water like this. This is in the morning of Wednesday, and you can tell the water is just glass. And it really was quite amazing. Speaking of water, I also on this trip implemented the Aquamira. That's how I filtered my water. That was in one of my previous videos as well. It's really lightweight and really reliable, and that's what I liked about it. This was the morning hike of Wednesday. What we did is we hiked up to Murdoch Mountain. This trip happened in the heat of the summer. However, Murdoch Mountain is about 11,000 feet. It's not the tallest mountain in the Uintas, but if you get up high enough, lo and behold, there's the snow. We had a leader that taught me a really fun trick. You can buy Kool-Aid packets that are condensed Kool-Aid in little strips. And so what we did is we packed up Ziploc bags with us and we made snow cones in July out in the mountains. You can dig down in the snow and find some fresh snow and make some snow cones. Nothing like getting a sugar high at 11,000 feet. They ate it all and had a blast. He brought up a couple of different flavors. The neat thing about that is that the Ziploc bags were very packable. You put some snow in them, put some snow cone stuff on them, and then you're good to go. This is us the next day. We're hiking into Marshall Lake. And then once we got to Marshall Lake, we hiked around Hoover Lake and Shepherd Lake. We geocached on the way. It was a lot of fun. Anywhere we wanted to stop and go fishing, we could. This is a small waterfall that actually flows into Shepherd Lake next to one of the geocaches. Long hike, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah, there's boulder fields all over due to the how high we were. Once again, recommended trip. It's really flexible. And there's some fishing poles. They didn't do very much fishing on that. I don't know why. I wish they would have. This is the next day. We left camp right from camp. We just walked away from camp and we hiked down, actually headed south and we headed into the Cataract Gorge area off of one of the edges. Oh, so yeah, we left directly from camp, went into the Cataract Basin, headed south. Um, it was quite the hike. I mean, it was all downhill, but it actually turned out to become really steep. We found some waterfalls that were not on the maps. This is one of them. It was just kind of a misty falls. It was probably a 200 or 300 feet elevation drop from where we were standing. And the pictures don't do it justice. It's unfortunate that you don't have better pictures. Sorry. But what happened is we ended up hiking down into one of the creeks of the Uintas. And when we got there, that is when I turned the young men over to the other leaders, and then they got to do some gun shooting at the bottom. A lot of campsites along that trail, and what you'll notice as we go through this, we're not doing a lot of trail hiking. This was a lot of topographical map, compass work. And what I mean by that is that I would actually have one of the young men lead us. And I would let him lead us regardless of whether we were going the right direction or not. Those kind of experiences make for really good reflections about the young men seeking guidance from their leaders. It's just endless. And so one of the things I implemented on this trip was to have each young man in charge of an activity day over day. And once they had finished their activity, I would move on to the next young man. Sandwiches. Let me talk about this. I am a huge fan of just having sandwiches for lunch. Nothing fancy. And in fact, that's sandwiches every day, all week long. Sandwiches, sandwiches, sandwiches. They're easy, they're low maintenance, and they can get you back to the activities quickly. What I've noticed is that the young men are not very picky about their food, particularly when it comes to breakfast or lunch. And so I highly recommend doing that. This is down by the Little Deer Creek dam site. We hiked into a waterfall, did some bouldering, and got up into it, and then hiked back out. Didn't require ropes, and wasn't very steep. The young men thought it was really cool to get up into that sort of a thing. But yeah, if you're going to do food, it's really got to be low maintenance. And you might not enjoy hearing this, but I'm not really a Dutch oven guy. Some guys are, and for that matter, I'm not really a pancake and eggs, bacon guy in the morning either. I'm more of a cereal and bagel and let's get moving. And I've come to find out that the young men, they feel that same way. If you ask them what they want for breakfast, they'll tell you what they want. If they want cereal, they'll ask for it. If they want pancakes, they'll ask for that. Most of the time I've discovered that all they want is cereal. I can't even tell you how many times I've heard a leader say, and maybe you've heard this same phrase too, it's, hey guys, who's going to eat these last 30 pancakes that I just cooked? Or, there's half a gallon of eggs that I just made. Somebody needs to come eat these. Those sorts of things. It's just a waste of food, time, energy, and effort, and money too. I mean, you're making food that they aren't going to eat, and you're spending the time to make it, and then it's not going to be used anyway. And all it does is make cleanup even worse in the end. And so, for instance, I went on a camp out just 2 weeks ago, and the young men wanted cereal, and when we woke up for breakfast, they didn't even want to eat it. Well, it's not like the cereal went bad, and we could still use it later. And so there's definitely an added benefit to that. This is one of the creeks that flows down into that area. It was very cold. The young men really like challenging each other to see if they can get into cold water. This water was probably about 45 degrees. Their faces, and there I am standing in the water. It is chilly. It's similar to I do the same thing when we go to Yellowstone. There's a waterfall you can get in in Yellowstone. It's called Fairy Falls, but no one ever does get into it just because of the water. I mean, the water temperature at Fairy Falls is groundwater coming out of the mountains. And so that temperature, that water is about the same. It's about 45 degrees. And so getting these guys to actually get in to challenge each other to do so, it's quite amusing. We did have one leader, though, that knew we were going to do this, and so he brought a wetsuit and got in that instead to get into the water. But once again, while we're doing all this, we're also doing other things as well. I mentioned earlier that geocaching was heavily a part of this this trip. That's Harrison. He hates the water. He absolutely hates it. He just doesn't like to get into it. One of the keys to making a successful high adventure is you really have to let the young men choose what they want to do. I meet leaders all the time, and I attend roundtables and get to see what they are deciding. And in brushing up with them and talking with them about high adventures, I discovered that there are leaders out there that they don't correlate high adventure with what the young men actually want to do. They actually just do things that they want to do, and as a result, their high adventure really does fall short of what it could be. It's unfortunate that that's the way it is, but it happens. And then they ask me, they say, well, I'm not having successful high adventures. What do you think I'm doing wrong? and I tell them, well, the problem is not the young men. The problem is you. And they give me these deer in the headlight looks like, what do you mean? I'm bending over backwards for these guys. And that is true. However, you're bending over backwards for them with activities that you want to do, not activities that they want to do. And so soliciting their feedback far in advance as to what they want to do will increase the success of your high adventure. It just will. And so I highly recommend that. On this high adventure, they wanted to go fishing, they wanted to go canoeing, geocaching, and do a long range hike. And that's what we did on our last day here. We hiked from camp, from Washington Lake, all the way into Smith and Morehouse Creek. And that's what you're seeing here in these images. This Smith and Morehouse Creek hike was about 14 miles through the backcountry. About half of that involved, well, I'd say more like a third to a quarter. There's some of the young men actually in the distance. A third or a quarter of that involved compass work, over the mountain compass work. It was an amazing hike. And one thing that made it unique is that it was a one-way hike. It was not a loop hike. This is us at Big Elk Lake. We started at one end, and then the cars actually went to the other end to meet us. And so I did this with myself and Dave Seastrand. We both came together on this and went on this trip. That was actually one of the passes that we had to cross over right there, where the trail disappeared and it turned into compass work. And yeah, it was a little rocky. A lot of fun. The young men hated it at the time, but this last year they told me that was one of the best high adventures they've been on. A lot of fun. Some of my stronger young men, as far as leadership skills are concerned, I let them lead this part of the hike. We ended up at a cabin on the last day, and then we did some activities there and then sent them home. They were exhausted, but they'd had lots of fun. This is the last day, us finishing up. We hammocked at the cabin, and it was a blast. Very affordable, very flexible. Everybody enjoyed themselves, and we're all pooped out at the end. This is my Uintas trip. Big rush, a lot of hiking, and a lot of camping too. Hopefully this helps you out with some of the stuff that we did. I'll post some more high adventure videos soon. In the meantime, check out some of my other videos. Thank you.